Hello everyone. Today we are going to talk about Caro-Kann Defense, mainly for people below 2000. So Caro-Kann start with E4 and then C6, D4 and D5. So this is Caro-Kann Defense. Basically after this, white has couple of options. They can push the pawn to E5, which is the advanced variation of Caro-Kann. They can take, which is the exchange variation of Caro-Kann. They can wait with the knight by putting knight on C3 or DT, D2, which is called the traditional and main line of Caro-Kann. Let's look at the exchange variation of Caro-Kann, which start with pawn takes D5 and C takes D5. And after this, white can play this, which is called the Panov attack. And I suggest you to play this move, E6, to keep everything solid. If you try to develop the light square bishop now, the problem is the queen can come to B3 and attack the pawn here and here, which may be little uncomfortable for you to play. So this is the exchange variation when there is a pan-up attack happening, and then the other one is they play simple move like bishop to D3, and you develop the knight, and they put the pawn here. And the main idea of putting the pawn here is like they are stopping this bishop to develop freely on this diagonal. Because if bishop goes here, then it is blocking the development of other pieces, and if bishop cannot go here, bishop cannot go here. So that is the main idea in the Caro-Kann exchange variation. Let's go back. Okay, like after this, white can play C3 or D2, and then black takes on D4, E4, and white takes. Black develop his knight. You take. You can basically take with this or the E pawn or the G pawn. If they take with the G pawn, then that means they are aiming for queenside castle. And if they take with the E pawn, then that means they are simply developing the black dark square bishop and try to castle king side and then go from there. So this is the one way they can play, and the another way is the main line of Caro-Kann, which starts with knight takes E4 and bishop to F5. So here basically the knight goes back and the bishop goes back, and you push H4 trying to attack this bishop, and then there we go from there. And there is the almighty mighty alien gambit here. After this you take this on E4 and knight comes to the F6, and you put your knight on G5. Suppose the black plays this H6, then you can take this, which is the almighty alien gambit. And after that, white has couple of options. You develop this knight. If they develop this knight here, then you develop your light square bishop with the check, and then you castle. So that is the way you play the alien gambit. Now let's look at one of the interesting variation of Caro-Kann, which start with pawn to f3. This is the fantasy variation of Caro-Kann. So here you can basically place like this e3, and if the opponent is not careful and do random move like bishop here, then you can take, then opponent's take, and you can give a check with the queen, pick up the pawn. So opponent has to be careful. So this is the fantasy variation, and also in the fantasy variation you can play one of the dangerous move like this. So if they play this, you take, suppose they take, you play immediate e5 without any protection. The idea is if they take, then you are not going to exchange the queen. You are going to give check here and take the pawn on e4. So that is the idea on fantasy variation of Caro-Kann. Basically, this is all you need to learn in Caro-Kann. And then there is the last one, which is the advanced variation of Caro-Kann, which starts with pawn to e5. So here the opponent can basically push this pawn immediately. Supposing you play knight to f3, the opponent might pin your knight and you go from there. So the idea is to put the dark square bishop here, and then they put the knight here, and they go from there. So this is the advanced variation of Caro-Kann. And sometimes they do this also, like in this position. Suppose they can do this also, like they play this pawn and bishop to f5, and if the white plays this, you have to be careful you don't play this. So there is a trap. You then they play pawn to g4, and your bishop is basically trapped. Right? So if you come back here, they will push this pawn and capture the bishop, and that is a gone case. So this is in the advanced variation of Caro-Kann, which can always happen to you. And there is there is another trick in the Caro-Kann. So I'll just show some tricks. So after this, you play d5, they play this d5, and then you play knight to c3, they take, you take, and they put the knight to f3, and you try to be cheeky with this move, queen to e2. Then if they by any chance bring the knight here, you have the smaller mate checkmate. So this is one of the tricks, and there is another trick in this opening as well. This is gonna be in advanced variation. So they push the pawn, and suppose they develop their light square bishop, they push this pawn, and by any chance you go here, then there is a deadly trap of this one. Right? The idea is basically if you take this, you cannot develop your dark square bishop. It will be in the case, and then the white will develop to knight to f3, go here, capture this, double the pawn, and go from there. Right? So this is one of the trap in Caro-Kann you have to watch out. So this is all to the Caro-Kann lesson we have today, and for people below under 2000. So if you like my content, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and we will be bringing more openings video in the coming future, and we are looking to bring Sicilian defense next in our category. Thank you.